Hey, it's me, the Stadium Savage, and I know why you're here, so let's talk about it. You ever see those games? You know the ones where there's that one person on a team that's seemingly always ahead of everyone, no matter what you do? Even when you watch the replays, I can promise you these players aren't god-tier talent. That's because those screenshots are me. They just understand a core concept in Stadium that's often overlooked. Cash generation. But what do I actually mean by that? Well, one of the most common issues people have when it comes to Overwatch Stadium is not learning how the currency actually works. So let me break it down for you. Ignore that death, you didn't see anything. At its base, you can imagine cash flow kind of like a direct buff to your character. Because put simply, the more cash you have, the stronger your character becomes. Not only through items, but you also gain passive bonus health from cash too. Most builds max out at about 60 to 70,000 or so cash, so it should be your objective to get there as fast as possible. But how do we achieve that? The trick is to check out the scoreboard at the end of the round. This will pop up and it shows where you got your money from. The first and most free one is round completion. Depending on if you are in quick play or comp, this number changes, but know that it gets smaller every round. The next three are pretty simple, but they have their own complicated math behind them that I'll get into later in the video. These are your damage, healing, and kills. Note that you will also earn money from assisting, I just didn't here. Then comes bounties. This is Stadium's way of making sure that one side doesn't stay dominant by making higher performing players earn more money to win. And finally, we have the MVP bonus. This is a free 1,000 per round you can get for up to 6,000 cash free per game. We are going to want this as much as possible if you want a huge lead. Don't worry though, if you watch the full way through, you'll know exactly how to get this consistently. To score an MVP, you have to be the player with the highest amount of cash earned in that specific round. When you score an MVP, typically, you'll have about 2,000 or so more cash than anyone else on your team, since you get the 1,000 bonus on top of already being ahead of them. This also goes for the enemy team though. Being an extra 2,000 ahead might not seem like much, but if we replicate these results even just a few times, you can literally get an entire extra item for free. To put this into perspective, imagine going up against someone with a single Stadium item while you were in the base game. It would be pretty unfair, right? The first plan of action is understanding that not all heroes are built equal. I just want to give a huge shout out to my friends over on the Stadium Builds Discord for helping me out with this. But every hero has their own unique amount of cash generated per damage and healing to specific targets. The intent of this balancing is to make certain characters like Genji, who wouldn't typically do as much raw damage as say a Soldier 76, be able to have equal cash generation, but it actually just leads to you being able to massively lead on specific heroes. That doesn't mean this system is all flawed though. You will often find those characters with high multipliers are super strong in the early game, whereas the characters with lower multipliers are much stronger in the late game when everyone is maxing their builds out and suddenly a cash lead doesn't mean as much here. Typically, the type of characters that live fast and burn up are called snowball characters, since they rely on quickly building momentum and a large cash lead to stay ahead. I could bore you with this for hours, but if you want more information, make sure to check out the Stadium Builds Discord. The link is in my bio. Okay, so now I've broken down how cash is generated and showed you what to look out for. I can hear you telling me through the screen, "This doesn't help me win games at all." Well, my lucky viewer, let's go over how to apply this newfound knowledge into a practical game strategy. And it all starts with the most important choice you make in Stadium, your first power. Not only will this base how you play for the rest of the game, but picking a bad one can set you off on the wrong foot for the rest of the game. Keep it as a general rule in your head that the earlier you get cash, the better, since more early cash means faster scaling stats, and faster scaling stats means faster scaling cash. It's a bit of a cycle we have going on here. As we said before, one of the main sources of cash is from the stats you output in the round. So, your first power should be something that directly enables you to do more damage and healing. This is why I typically advise against powers like Supervisor or Hooves of Steel, as although they can be some nice items, they don't actually offer any raw stats outside of easier to hit shots and more max life. Let's take that knowledge and test you. Here's is all of Genji's powers. Which one of these would you take first? If your answer was any of these, then congrats. And yes, I know, there is an argument that all powers give stats in one way or another, but we are looking for ones that directly increase the cash we get. Though, not all of these are equal, and in this case, I do advise Forged Under Fire or Hidden Blade. I'll link my Genji build in the bio below, but if you want me to make a video on it, I'd be more than happy to. Another thing worth noting is that items that heal you can also grant cash, but you have to be pretty careful with this one. All powers that grant healing and damage grant cash. However, when we are talking about items, only those with the specific heal keyword will give you cash from what you heal with them. The alternative is restore items, which will give you the healing and it shows up on the scoreboard and everything, but you will not generate any money from this. The sole exception here is gadgets. Gadgets are the most underutilized item in Stadium, probably because they are still new. Technically, gadgets were the last major addition to Stadium, despite them coming out over 6 months ago. Blizzard, what are you doing? Although the effects are nice, and I'll make another video on each gadget and where to use them, here I'm going to talk about Medkit, Field Support, and Kitsune Charm. All of these gadgets restore life, but they all also grant cash for this effect, and because of that, they're all amazing pickups from round 1, since over the course of the game, just thinking about using these will generate you a couple thousand cash. Medkit is a strong pickup on characters that can avoid damage or don't have to be constantly engaged in combat. This is because it heals you for 20 health for every second you don't take any damage, up to 10 seconds. And due to its super cheap nature, there isn't a round, up until the late game, you can go wrong with filling a slot in with it. Field Support is the strongest gadget for healing. It heals 25% more than that of a Soldier Biotic Field, and can heal you and your team. This also won't be stopped by damage incoming or outgoing, so good to use in combat. And finally, Kitsune Charm is the weakest in terms of actual healing numbers, but this item also grants you invulnerability frames on use, so you can completely avoid any instance of damage. Super versatile, but since we're talking strictly about cash flow in this video, the other two are better options. But I will need you to understand that the item and gadgets won't have the same impact on everyone though. Remember that sheet of how much money people generate per damage and healing? Items and gadgets also use those numbers, so high multiplier characters get more use out of them. And now onto our final topic, stat padding. This is the part of Stadium that most people actually manage to get right, simply because this is the easiest thing to do, but you'd be surprised at how many people I see mess this part up, even at a top 500 level. Because cash is scaled from your stats, we already explained that adding more stats makes the rate of cash larger, whether it's through the healing or the damage that we were discussing. But the only factor that's just as important as scaling our cash up is spending it correctly too. To put it simply, green items, despite offering the lowest stats, actually get the most value per cash. The antagonist to this being purples, which give large amounts of stats, but actually are quite bad in terms of efficiency. If you guys want a more in-depth guide on this, then let me know in the comment section, but I'll run the generally most efficient thing to do by you really quickly. Round 1, you're fixed to 3 greens here. Round 2, a blue and 5 greens. Round 3, 3 to 4 blues and the rest greens. Round 4, a purple and 3 to 5 blues, the rest greens. Round 5, full blues and 2 purples. Round 6, 4 purples and 2 blues. Round 7, all purples. With exceptions to this rule, when a character has some strong unique items and wants to hold a blue till round 7 or rush to get a purple by round 3. Take this with a grain of salt though, as every hero is built differently, and that's what makes Stadium so lovable. Just the takeaway here is to make sure you fill your slots out as much as possible. Well guys, that's about everything I can teach you about cash generation in this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Till next time, builders.